Hello class. I see some of you actually showed up today. Alright, for today we'll be discussing monetary policy. Now, let's see. Monetary policy is the action of the Federal Reserve takes to manage the money supply and interest rates to pursue macroeconomic goals. And these goals are economic growth, price stability, high employment, and stability of financial institutions and financial markets and institutions. And before we get too in depth with monetary policy, we need to go into money demand. And the axes for money market are interest rate, and the quantity of money in the market. Now, in this market, let's begin with money demand, which is downward sloping. Now, I trust you all did your homework like you're supposed to and read the chapter. So, Yujiro, why don't you tell us what are the shifters of money demand?
Okay, real GDP and price level shifts money demand.
But how?
Well, for real GDP, if everybody was feeling richer, then they would demand more money, causing the curve to shift left. For price level, if prices were higher, then more money would be demanded, so the line would shift to the right.
Perfect. Now that we covered money demand, we could go into money supply. Now, this line is vertical because it's controlled by the Federal Reserve. And at the point where money demand and money supply are equal, the market is in equilibrium. Now, the shifters for money supply are open market operations, discount rates, and reserve requirements. Since I have a date with my girlfriend coming up, I'll have all three of you to do a little presentation on the shifters. Let's see, Courtney, you'll do open market operations. Emily, you'll do reserve requirements. And Yujiro, you'll do discount rates. Alright, see you next week.
1 week later.
Well, when we're in a recession, we need to move aggregate demand back over to the right in equilibrium, and the Fed does that by increasing the money supply. The Federal Reserve increases the money supply by lowering reserve requirements, buying bonds, or lowering discount rates. This lowers interest rates and shifts aggregate demand back towards equilibrium. It's where we are in an expansion and we want to shift aggregate demand back to avoid high inflation. The Fed does that by lowering the money supply. They could sell bonds, raise reserve requirements, or raise discount rates. That raises interest rates and moves aggregate demand to the left. The reserve requirement is the money that has to be held in the bank, a percentage of deposits that stay. The Fed can raise the reserve requirement, which lowers the money supply and shifts the line to the left, or the Fed can lower the reserve requirement, which raises money supply and shifts the line to the right. Yo.
Let's go, yo.
The market operations is the buying and selling of treasury securities such as bonds.
Yo!
When the Fed buys bonds, it puts more money in the market, which increases money supply and shifts the line to the right. When the Fed sells bonds, money is sucked out of the market, which lowers money supply and shifts the line to the left.
DR! The discount rate, the interest rate that the Fed charges to don't be late. Gives out loans to the other banks when they need it. The last resort for a bank because they don't give a When the DR hits the floor, the dough hits the ceiling. Everybody's rich at 80 shifts to the right. Let it rain in the lunchtime, you know I just might.
Bloopers.
The reserve requirement is the money that.
Dance. Sammy scratch beat. Let's go. Dance. I like to
The reserve requirement is the money that has to be held in the bank. A percentage of deposits that stay. The Fed can raise the reserve requirement. What are you doing? It's supposed to be that thing. Right.
She got a sexy thing. She do go touch a sexy thing. Go ahead. She got a sexy
No.
thing. Go touch
Open
a
market
sexy
operations
thing.
are the buying and selling of treasury securities such as bonds.
Yo!
Yo!
Clap, snap. Dance. Did I mention I like to dance? By the way, I love to dance. Quick note, I
Open
need
market
to
operations
dance.
are the buying and selling of treasury
Dance. By the way, I love to dance. Quick note, I need to dance, 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 dance. One foot to the left, dance. One foot to the right, dance. Move it round and round. Let's do this all night, dance. One foot to the
DR! The discount rate, the interest rate that the Fed charges to don't be late.